Welcome. Stay a while and listen. We're talking today about art. A lot of things. We're going to start with art as a concept. People seem to think that what is art is like a hard question. I can just simplify this right for you. Art is a form of communication. Art is sort of the at all of communication. It's when when you have the whole package of all ways you can communicate, that's your arting. That's art. Basically, all form of communication is to greater and lesser degrees a kind of an art, and all art is to greater and lesser degrees a kind of communication. They're almost synonymous terms, art and communicate. Uh, when someone is trying to, primarily people try to express um, one of two things, that the world is beautiful and that the world is terrible. Um, it usually is one of the two categories. They're trying to, like a painter, for instance, who is trying to paint a beautiful landscape. Just they want to show you beauty because they think that's worthwhile, because they think that you should see beauty, because it's inspiring, because it's nice. It's nice to know that beauty exists, even if it's only fictional. Even if they're painting a fictional place, maybe that's a thing that they want you to see. Maybe when they're painting a fictional landscape and they paint like a really exotic beauty that you can't see on Earth, that's because they're trying to tell you that this kind of beauty exists. Maybe if they're painting a real landscape, they're trying to tell you this kind of beauty exists. In either case, they're just trying to showcase that beauty it's wonderful. Look at it. Take it in. Because beauty is a kind of truth. Well, uh, it's always a matter of trying to communicate truth. Beauty is a kind of truth. When people are trying to talk about how the world is terrible, for instance, they're trying to showcase that it usually is a call to arms or a call to action on the part of the artist. They're saying that this is a thing that is in the world that shouldn't be. I don't like that it's in the world. Or perhaps it's in the world and you need to face that. You and everybody need to just like fucking suck it up and deal with that. It's always a matter of communication. Often people are trying to communicate something about themselves. They're like, I don't think that I can be in the world because the world doesn't understand something about me personally or about people like me. They're trying to say more people need to get that. They're also trying to reach out to the other people who feel like this. Most music is often about making people feel a certain emotion a certain way because that's true. You can feel that way. And the artist would like for you to feel that way. And often that's why there is lyrics, because they're saying like the instrument is there to evoke the more primal essence and the feeling of it. And the lyrics are supposed to be telling you why you are feeling sad or angry or happy or what have you. What about and relating the two, often people just like leave it as just a title. um, Really fun people are just trying to let the music speak for itself and don't put any actual words associated with it or gibberish jargon words. And the whole point of that is just like what does the music say? And because that's a good question to ask, because the instrument is a kind of a communication that they are trying to use. Jackson Pollock basically totally failed in his effort to prove that art is often has no message, because Jackson Pollock's art all has the message that art does not have a message. What he did successfully communicate is that art often can have a completely inane or mundane message, which is not only not useful but harmful. Jackson Pollock did successfully say, "Look at this. This was pointless. This didn't need to be said. Here's an art about it. Look at the soup can. This is banal. It does not need to be, but it is." He did successfully point out that just because someone is saying it and communicating it and it's art doesn't mean that it's good art. It might be very stupid what they're saying. Um, which is where we get into the discussion of how right-wingers can't art. Now, that's not... Oh, okay, right-wingers have an extremely difficult time with art because they don't have anything important to say. They're usually extremely incorrect about the nature of the world, and that shows when they try to communicate what the world is like with their art. It's because the world is not like that. But it's not impossible. There are plenty of examples of good right-wing art. If you want to know, there's 300 is the go-to example. That movie has the worst message. It's authoritarian nonsense from the top to the bottom, all the way through it. Authoritarian horseshit. Also, that movie kicks ass. I love that movie. I've watched that movie like 50 times. I'm gonna keep watching that movie because it's oh yeah, but that's also not at all what the Battle of Thermopylae was like, or even close. Especially the bit where they weren't wearing armor, which is for sure the best change. Is that everybody's just got their titties out. That's the best. Yes. Yeah. This is where real life needs to imitate art, or soldiers need to be out there dressed like Leonidas on the front lines. War could be this sexy. It could be this sexy, and we can make it happen. This is the real message of 300: is that war should be sexier, and frankly, uh, pretty much everything could be sexier. I'm alright with that. But come we now to the more difficult discussion of entertainment, and where that factors into the whole discussion of what is art. Um, you got to remember that leisure time is important for humans. People need to have downtime. They need to have safe, stable serenity where nothing is asked of them and that's all of that is a matter of filling your Maslow's needs. That's like just you're restabilizing your understanding of the world. People need leisure. And entertainment then is a thing that provides leisure. And there's a fine line between leisure and luxury. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's where you get where other people have to be subservient to you is where it starts being luxury, and then that gets to be hedonism. Because just because it fills your needs does not mean it's always good all of the time. This is a very important thing to remember. Just because it feels good and is good for you doesn't mean you shove it in your eye holes forever. Like, cabbage is good. Don't fill your entire body with cabbage. That's not good. So the same is true of leisure and entertainment. When people get enraged about like politics in video games, there is so much to unpack with that about like my friend, there are other ways to get your leisure time, firstly. Secondly, video games are art. Not all of them are pure entertainment. Basically, none of them can be, by their nature, pure entertainment. So let's talk about video games and where they fall on the art scale, because corporate art is a whole thing. Right wingers can successfully make good art. It happens sometimes. Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations. That guy's in charge of a damn government. It's pretty authoritarian. It's a hard right wing. Meditations, good stuff. It happens. Good art does occasionally, every few centuries, fall out of the mouth of a right winger. But who can't make good art is a corporation. That's never happened. I've never seen a boardroom make a good art. That corporations have nothing to say. There's the art for art's sake is an empty phrase, as he says. Art for art's sake is somebody talking who has nothing to say. And you get a whole boardroom of people together and ask themselves what's going to be good entertainment, then then you're asking a question which will produce an answer which is bad art. The answer will always, you may find an answer that will entertain, but you will also find an answer which is bad art. The corporations cannot art, but 100% of the time they have nothing. What on earth would they tell you? What insight can they offer to the world? Be greedy? How is that helpful? When, there's there's no deeper wisdom that a group of people who are just in it for the money are going to be able to offer you. That's why the old Disney is so successful in just hiring artists, and why so many Disney movies are like anti-Disney, because Disney doesn't give a shit, which is why they're good at this. A video game is, of course, comprised of art. The people who are the developers are one way or another artists in one form or another. Developers are artists. If you don't agree with that, you're insane. Anyone doing code of any kind is a kind of artist. You're building a thing in the same way that a mason or a construction worker is a kind of an artist. Obviously, ask any construction worker. There's obviously a somewhat of an art to it. Just try it. Try doing construction sometime and tell me there's no art to the thing. Yes, there's obviously a lot of science, a lot of math to be done, and more than just skill involved, friend. When you're building a thing, you're putting yourself into it one way or another. Coding is a kind of art. You're communicating something, even if you're just communicating that Windows has a new little trinket thing in the thing. It's a form of communication. You're telling people about the world. Journalism is also a kind of art, by the way. It's a sort of a really strange. Journalism is art in the same way that photography and landscape painting is art. They're trying to tell you about the world, the true world. And they're trying to tell it to you because truth is important. That's a thing that people are often trying to express with art. They're just being like, hey, give a fuck about true things. That's the thing that you should care about. It's strange that so few people still do. It's amazing how much art is just constantly trying to tell people like don't be greedy, um, to love everybody as if they were all family, to not make such a big deal out of yourself, and like these are lessons that have been around thousands of years that no, people just are still uncouth and can't handle Avatar, The Last Airbender, that could probably explain to them most of what they need to know about the world they live in. There's a lot of really, really good art. You could just read Lord of the Rings, tell you about the world you live in. If you take a second to examine the world from the one creating it, from the perspective of a creator. Like somebody much smarter than me said, play games like a dev. Yeah, also read like a writer and watch movies like a cinematographer and a screenwriter and a director and an actor. Um, Consume art like an art maker. It'll help. It'll help you. It'll make you grow. Don't just passively consume things like a wild animal. Uh, you don't need to be entertained so much. You actually have plenty of space to think if you'll give yourself a break on that. So, most video games are designed to be a form of entertainment, obviously. Um, and this doesn't automatically lump them into bad art, but it kind of lowers the bar a bit automatically. And like, I'll give people a break about how they don't want to be challenged necessarily with like Call of Duty game. Well, maybe that's a bad example because like it's a war game, but like go play Doom, man, if you don't want to be challenged. I can kind of see where people are getting upset that the art has like because a video game is a form of entertainment comprised of art. And like art isn't necessarily for entertainment. Entertainment doesn't necessarily have to be artistic. And people don't understand postmodernism, and labels are hard, and semantics is very confusing. And I just wanted to have a good time. I didn't need to be told about how the world's hard because I don't care about that. I have no empathy. No, I can really sympathize with how you needed a break. You don't have any spoons to deal with the fact that you're a powerless, weak, pathetic peasant, like all of us. Welcome to the club. We've got jackets. It's actually just a ratty tunic that they give you when they send you to the fields. Uh, but you can't. This is why IPs are like of the devil. It's such a fake idea that there's this holy ghost of Halo, which isn't made out of the game or the game makers. It's just Halo above it all. And somebody can buy that and have it. And the things that they say happen next are in the story, which is fictional, and none of it happened, and was only ever being told for either the sake of entertainment or to communicate truth, or both. We've just gone so far off the rails with this whole IP thing. I'm gonna call it right now. It's not even gonna be EA or Activision Blizzard who buy 343, who are gonna be too foolish to sell the rights to Halo before they collapse in on themselves like a black hole because they are just apparently woefully incompetent. It's not gonna be a game maker even that gets their hands on Halo. It's gonna be Disney or some other shit like that. Are you ready? We haven't even seen the half of the adventures of Green Man that shoots good. Mr. Iron Chef himself is gonna be all over the place. There's gonna be movies. There's gonna be Halo movies where there are no Halos, but then there's gonna be Halo movies where there's too many Halos. And you know what? I really think that Mr. John Halo Iron Chef himself, I think he does afraid of something. I think that he does afraid when he doesn't kill aliens.